Bo knows many people. He talks to the interesting ones on this show. This is Bishop and Friends.
Well, that rejoin certainly fits our guest right now, the great Doug Lesmerises, Kings of the North, joining on the Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems fan guest hotline. If you could do a coach swap for one Northern program, so you could take this exact roster, everything that's set up, the schedule, all of it, and you could just grab a coach from another program or even one that maybe was recently retired and put him in charge of that operation, and you'd feel better about it, what would that answer be?
Oh, man. Kirby Smart at Iowa? I don't know. That
would be a scene, man.
Because then
that'd be unbelievable.
They don't have any fast cars in Iowa City, so everything would be sorted out. It's one of those things like I feel like the Big Ten often has defense first programs, right?
Yeah.
Ohio State sometimes is a defense first program, oftentimes is. But I feel like their offense usually isn't quite good enough, like Iowa as the example, to get over the top, whereas Kirby has built a national power with the defense-first program. Saban did the same thing. Mm-hmm. So if you could bring a little bit of that north, because you're fighting a little bit of an uphill battle with skill position guys sometimes. We just did a big show about quarterback recruiting on Wednesday. The North still is not grabbing quite as many quarterbacks as you would like. The North is losing a lot of their own Northern quarterbacks are getting stolen by Southern teams right now. So you bring a defensive-minded head coach, but maybe who has a little more oomph offensively, and then you have a national title contender in the Midwest.
What conclusion did you draw from why that is happening, the quarterback thing?
Yeah, I don't know, because there's the 9 highest-rated Northern quarterbacks in the class of 2026. Only 2 are committed north. And, the best – there's a Chicago kid who's going to USC, right? And it's what? To Lincoln Riley, right? That's – I know USC has a great class, but, that's what you want to do right now? There's a Pennsylvania kid who's going to Auburn. There's another Pennsylvania kid who's going to Missouri. And it's why is that happening? And we're trying to figure out, is there still a perception bias? Because, to me, if you're a kid in Pennsylvania and maybe you're not going to Penn State, but to be if I want to succeed at the highest level, I got to go to Auburn. It's what are we talking about? You're going to Auburn? Yeah. Why isn't that kid going to Syracuse or Pitt or Michigan State or Maryland or Indiana or Wisconsin, right? And I don't – again, a lot of this, Bo, and we have a special series coming out on KOTN that's about this. The reality of Northern football is rising, but I'm not sure the perception is, right? And that applies to 17-year-olds. I wonder how many 17-year-olds still think, man, if I want to play at the highest level, I got to go to the SEC, because I don't think that's true anymore, but I wonder if they still think it, some of them.
I think that the issue is with the North as a whole. I definitely, obviously, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State to a certain extent, those, Oregon, absolutely. Those programs kind of they're having to carry the weight for some bad baggage is what it amounts to. But I also, one other thing that it just could be this simple. And I've got buddies who, and I know your daughters are in the college world and all of those things. But one thing that I noticed, a buddy of mine had a daughter just graduate, and she's going to Clemson. And I said, and that was her first choice. And I said, wow, Clemson. When I was in the South, Florida State and Clemson, kids would go to Florida State over Clemson. And it wasn't like anyone was going, oh, I can't wait to get to Clemson. But now all these kids are. It might just be weather, Doug. It might just be.
It is.
It might just be that if you're a kid playing quarterback in Pennsylvania and you've dealt with the weather, or you're a kid playing quarterback in Chicago, and you go on a visit to Auburn or to USC in November, and you go, oh, 72, sunny. This is nice. It might just be that.
You're speaking our language on that. It is the obvious, but yet I think sometimes under-discussed, thing about this. The South just has an edge with that.
Yes.
In recruiting, does weather help or hurt? And when you're going somewhere, you're visiting somewhere in November, is it beautiful, or are you in a parka? And I do think there's a reality to that, but then you have to sell what you got, which is, hey, by the way, did you watch the NFL playoffs? Like, it's pretty cold in Buffalo. If you want to do that, you're going to be there eventually. Why not get some training now and come north, right? And sell the other things you have. But I do think there's part of that. But then you just got to work harder and smarter. I think, and Bill Landis, my great partner, obviously, did all the work on this. The Wednesday show, I think in this 2026 Ohio recruiting class, I think the top 20 guys, I think Ohio State has 7. And then of the other 13, there's a lot going south. And again, it's that second tier. Why aren't Illinois and Michigan State? Mark D'Antonio built an 11-win program off like the second tier kids in Ohio. But I just think there's still more coaches in the north. Luke Fickell at Wisconsin, Cincinnati's got to get it going this way because like right now Ohio State's obviously having a fine recruiting class. They just had the flip yesterday. They're not killing it. No. Michigan's really good right now. Notre Dame's really good right now. But it's that second group that when a kid goes to Kentucky instead of Cincinnati or Indiana or Wisconsin or Iowa from the Midwest, I can't understand that. What does Kentucky offer you that those great Big Ten programs don't? And I just think he has to sell it better. Yeah,
that was the brilliance of Stoops and everything that he did. And he basically, when D'Antoni went out, then he went in there and then he built that program on that. It's a fascinating thing. It's worth noting that this was one of the things that Pantoni and Urban did when they first got here. And you remember the Nike ad of Ohio State in the snow, right? They built everything kind of around it, and their thing was like, hey, if you're going to play in the North Atlantic in the NFL, come practice in the North Atlantic in college. We'll prepare you to play in the cold weather. Like, it's a smart thing to do. Ohio State's always been on the cutting edge of that. You mentioned Fickell. I still cannot believe he took the job. It's even more odd the way that it's gone. Is there pressure on him at Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Is Wisconsin a place that applies pressure?
So we did like a hot seat thing a couple weeks ago, and I think there's 3 ways that a coach gets fired. One is like you used to have it and you kind of lost it. One is it's actually not you, it's us. We kind of just need a change. Sure. And the other is this was a mistake and we're going to get out of this. And I liked first blush, what is that? Second blush, it's like, well, Luke is very big about cultural fit, and Wisconsin fits him. He's not going to go be if he went to LSU or Florida State or Ole Miss, I would have been like, what is happening? But he fits Wisconsin. But they could be in the we're sorry this didn't work out zone, and just get out of that, right? Jim Leonard, the guy who was the interim when Paul Chryst got fired, he's still floating around the NFL, right? He's like a DC that doesn't. If you just want to get back to that, he tried the offensive revolution for 2 years. Now they're going back to a Wisconsin style of football. But if that doesn't work, I don't know. Their schedule's nuts. So I do think he's on the hot seat because we tried to define hot seat is if you have a bad year, you're going to get fired. If Wisconsin's 4-8, it's not about whether he deserves to be fired. But if Wisconsin's 4-8, is Luke Fickell going to get fired? My guess would be yes. That's just a guess. But again, it doesn't mean he's a bad coach. But it's a survival year. Billy Edwards, the transfer from Maryland, is a veteran quarterback. They have to survive. If they can go 6-6, make a bowl, survive, there's a future on the other side. There really is. Because they brought in 2 quarterbacks. They brought in Danny O'Neal, who started as a true freshman at San Diego State last year, and Billy Edwards. And what happened in Luke's first 2 years is the starting quarterback got hurt both years, and the backup quarterback wasn't good enough, and it torpedoed this season. So they got a veteran starter and a good backup. If they can go 6-6 and survive, I think there's an other side that Luke Fickell can get to. But I'm not sure he's going to have the chance to get to it if they go 4-8, and their schedule is nuts, including going to Bama.
Yeah. Is there who is the hottest seat? Who did you conclude was the hottest seat up here in terms of if it doesn't go well, you're fired?
I think there's 4 in the North that we would put on that of our 28 teams. Luke is one. I think Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati is another. And that, again, is just being realistic. If they have a bad year, would he get fired? I think if they go 4-8, I think if they're not competitive in the Big 12, he's been a successful coach before, but it maybe is like this is not a fit. And when we talk about recruiting, don't you think they could go get a coach who could scoop up the second-tier Ohio kids at Cincinnati? Don't we know some people who maybe could do that? Don't we know some, right? So, do you want to go that way? I think Mike Loxley at Maryland is possibly that. I think he's done a good job there. But there's a new AD there. I think they really are worried about making money. And if there's not energy around the Maryland program, I think he's there. And then David Braun at Northwestern, did a good job in year one, brought in under difficult circumstances. They're opening a new stadium next year. If Northwestern's really bad this year, I think they might want energy for the new stadium, and that could mean a new coach. So I think 4 of the 28 are in that range. But the point is, I think the 24 of the 28 are like pretty stinking good. There's a lot better depth of Northern college coaches than there was 10 years ago.
There's no doubt. No. I mean, you won the last 2 national titles. Yeah, you're in a good spot.
There's real
you're
dudes.
in a good spot. Yeah,
there's real dudes.
All right, buddy. You're a real dude. Thanks for your time as always.
Thanks, brother. I'll see you.
All right, there.